Tired of serving up the same old tasteless victuals to your family? Step up your grill game with new seasonings from Cloy's Southern Eats. Based off famous Southern recipes, our seasonings will add what's been missing to your family's feast. Add it to steak, chicken, shrimp, you name it. Serving up these fixings is going to make you the hero at home. So head on over to CloysSouthernEats.com and order yours today. Come get you some.
And welcome to the Razorback Diamond Report with Dudley Dawson. You know me, I'm Jason, here as always. Talking a little bit of Razorback women's basketball. They improved to 4-0, as you can see on the crawl there on the bottom. They are finishing out their tour of Arkansas. They had Euler on Tuesday night, and that wasn't much of a game. And then Friday night, you had them facing off against Arkansas State, and it was a game for kind of the first half, and then Arkansas kind of ran away with it there at the end.
Yeah, it's been an interesting run for them. I'm a big proponent of playing in state schools. I know a lot of people are not, but grew up. I actually went to school in Newport, but grew up in a small town named Balch, which was as close to Jonesboro as it was to Newport. So I went to a lot of Arkansas State games over the years, Harding, Hendricks, UCA, a lot of other things. And I enjoy the competition. Arkansas is now 14-0 against those teams since 2019 when they lifted the ban. Obviously went to Arkansas State to help them out the other night financially, no doubt, with the big crowd. And it's great to watch Izzy Higginbotham play, a young lady from Batesville who's turned herself into a fantastic player. She was a really good player for them. And I enjoyed watching that the other night. It was kind of interesting. I had two TVs on, and neither the men's team or the women's team could throw in a three-pointer there for a while. But Arkansas's women finally got theirs going.
Yeah, they did. I want to bring up Talia Scott for just a second. Not only is she leading the team in scoring, she's leading the SEC in scoring with 26.5 points a game. That right now it's 6 points more than the next person behind her. We were at the grade school game last Friday, and I just wanted to see kind of if there was going to be that freshman high and then it kind of lull a little bit towards the first part of the season, because freshmen, they get a little bit more comfortable and they kind of slack back just a little bit. Man, I'm gonna tell you what, she's been putting the pedal to the metal.
Yeah, and what's interesting is she's really not shooting the ball great from outside. She's not, she's a better three-point shooter than she's showed so far, which sounds ridiculous when you know that she's averaging the 26 points. But there's just so much potential in there. As I said, I heard Brett Dolan, one of the Arkansas announcers, talk the other day about how she could be possibly the best women's basketball player to ever play here. I'm not ready to go there, but I'm telling you, she's off to a great start, and there's so much in there. And as Coach Mike Neighbors has pointed out so many times, the fact that she has Michaela Daniels and Samara Spitzer to help her out, mentor her, is going to be a big deal. Samara will be around for another year for sure. And also you got to give Carly Keats, and we'll talk about her. She's kind of the prime proponent of the prime person we did a story on this week for Native American Night, which they're having appreciation night, which they're having tomorrow night when they play UCA. That's 4 solid backcourt players who are averaging over 55 points a game this year to get combined.
Gee, my Christmas. And then you look at the front line with Salem Poffenberger. She's averaging almost 14 rebounds a game. And with her presence inside, Miriam's presence on the inside too. And her game is really starting to come along. After sitting out that first year, I feel like that, the sky's kind of the limit for her as she starts to really kind of settle in at the college level.
Yeah, another player who really is coming back into her own. She went to UConn, then transferred and had to sit out a year, came back last year and played pretty well. But still, she's another one who that she's got a great shot. It's not going down at the level she wants to so far, but when she gets that going around, she's going to be a walking double-double to go along with the walking buckets from the guards. And then Miriam Dowda, back healthy, and just love her old school George Mikan game, Jack Sikma, all those guys who used to make really good post moves that love watching that. And obviously she's been able to knock down some threes too. Schedule will get a little tougher, as they go along. Obviously, UCLA is number 3 in the country. They're coming in early December to Bud Walton Arena. And Arkansas's got Wisconsin the day after Thanksgiving, and then either Maryland or Boston College the next day in a tournament they're playing in Fort Myers, Florida.
Yeah, I was looking at the SEC overall records right now, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got 6 schools right now that are undefeated in the SEC going. And I'm not saying that that's going to be indicative of what's going to happen throughout the rest of the season. We get that. But I really think that the strength of the SEC from top to bottom, it really, there's a lot of parity, I feel like, this year, minus South Carolina, of course, at the top, maybe even LSU. But after that, I think it's going to be an open league this year.
Yeah, we have drama down there at LSU. Obviously lost the first game of the year. And Reese has not been playing here lately. Kim Mulkey doesn't really put up with anything. She doesn't care how much money you make in NIL, how good a player you are. You're going to do things her way. That's why she's been so successful over the years. That's why they won the national championship last year. I'm sure they're going to have continue to have a meeting of minds, and Angel Reese will be back out there. I guess one of the things going on is the two mamas are yapping at each other on social media. The might take that back a notch. Everybody that NIL, man, NIL, it can cause you some issues.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting thing to watch and see how she navigates that, because, like you said, Kim's not one to really put up with any crap from anybody anyway. And then you have a lot of large personalities. I wondered if she kind of takes that step back also and says, okay, maybe we need to manage this a different way just to see. But I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. But
my guess would be no. Like I said, she's been very successful doing what she's done over the years now. You may manage it a little bit different with NIL and the transfer portal and all those things. But still, she demands discipline, and that's been one of the things in her program for so long.
So I want to go over to football for just a few moments. And last night, what did Mike McIntyre have to say about his team's performance against Arkansas? I know that they had a pretty good run there in the first quarter. It looked like it was kind of even. Almost at one point, you thought that FIU might take the lead. Arkansas's talent kind of took over after that. But I felt like, they did find some cracks there in the defense that, proved to be successful there in the first quarter, at least.
Yeah, when I had my story already starting to write it when they went for it on 4th and 3 on the initial possession of the game. You know, that's not something you do. But he said he wanted to set a mindset. He thought he had to play, could get it done. And ironically, Arkansas did score a touchdown off of that, the record for KJ, but Jefferson. But then they come back and obviously Florida International puts up 2 touchdowns, misses extra point from a young man, a kicker who just got rattled by the Arkansas crowd and was yelling back at him. It's pretty interesting. You don't see field goal and extra point kickers going at it that hard with the fans that were there, but. Arkansas came back and won. Obviously, there's a little excitement during the ball game when ESPN's Rodden Gilmore said that he had been told that by Sam Pittman that he had a 2-hour talk with Hunter Yurchek, and he had been told he would be back. Coach Pittman said after the game he had no recollection of that. The Arkansas communications staff was very effusive in letting that know as well. And then obviously today, knowledge has come out that Hunter Yurchek stood up in the locker room after the game last night and made it clear that Sam Pittman will be back as the head coach next year. Now, there may be some out there who disagree with it, some who agree with it. It doesn't really matter anymore. That's what's going to happen. They're going to move forward. On the pregame show on the Razorback Network last night, I made a point that I thought was very salient, in that I think that whatever they were going to do, there needed to be some type of pronouncement, because as soon as the Missouri game is over with, you're back into recruiting. Really, you've been doing it right now. You're trying to hold on.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to know who the offensive coordinator is going to be. When you get that taken care of, you'll have a little bit more of a handle on what the offensive commits are going to do, including Courtney Crutchfield, the young man from Pine Bluff who will play up here in this area this weekend when Pine Bluff takes on Shiloh Christian. But you had to make. You couldn't. It's been so awkward this past couple of weeks, and I'm glad that at least a decision was made. Saying it's the right decision, it's a bad decision, whatever. What I'm saying is the decision had to be made one way or the other. And now you have to hit, regardless of what happens on Friday, against a Missouri team that has played great this year. It just the 4th and 17 play by Brady Cook and Luther Burden yesterday is exciting. That's going to be a really good team. It's going to be tough to beat them when they're here on Friday, but you shouldn't have any problems with Arkansas being up and possibly playing one of their. I think it's easy to say they're going to play their best game at home this year. Whether it will be good enough or not, we don't know. But once the season's over, you have got to hit. You have got to absolutely hit on the offensive coordinator position. You won't know if you hit on it until next season, but you better have somebody that can rally these kids at least in the offseason.
And that's something that I think you have to give Sam Pittman some credit for with what he did with the defense. Can he do that now with the offense? I really feel like me personally, I think that there should be somebody coming in that's more experienced, somebody that can kind of level the ship off a little bit, identify some areas that they need to improve in to help bring this offense along. And I don't want to say that Kenny Guyton is the guy. I don't want to say that he's not the guy, but I think that you at least have to explore your options with somebody that might be a little bit more seasoned in that role, because ultimately what this next hire that he makes could be the last one that he makes here on the Hill.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do agree with you in a certain vein there, but I also think that whoever they bring in has to have an energy, has to have an uplifting personality. That was not the case this year with Coach Enos. It's clear that it happened. And you can bring in somebody that's older, but it better be somebody excitable. It better excite the team first. It better excite the fans, second. He's got to be a great evaluator of talent. That's got to be something that you have here at Arkansas. I was on the show Friday morning with Houston Dale Nutt. We talked a little bit about Arkansas is never going to get a bucket load of 5 stars. You can recruit 4 stars, you get occasional 5-star, and you can get 3 stars that turn into 5 stars. But you better do a great job at identifying. You better do a great job at development. And I think while we try to throw it all on Dan Enos and the offensive line a lot this year, Like that's one of the things that's kind of slipped through the cracks there. They have missed on some targets in the portal transfer. They've hit on some, but they've also maybe not had the development that you would have thought would have in the offensive line.
Yep, and I think that's one of the rooms that I think will probably turn over more than that has in the last couple of years. And you got to get the dudes in there to block. You got to get the guys in there that's going to open those holes. Now, to the last 3 games, you've had an Arkansas runner that has eclipsed 100 yards. Rocket against Florida. Isaiah, is it Augustov or Augustov? I've heard both ways. I think it's Augustov. And
IA, baby. I'm going with IA.
IA, there you go. And he's the first freshman since DeBinion ran for 100 against Kansas last year. But, KJ almost had 100 yards to the last 3 games as well. So, I mean, I'm not saying that the offensive line hasn't improved, because I see there are some shades of improvement, but it's not quite what we were hoping for from the start of the season. But
Dominique Johnson also came in and had some great runs. Both of those guys showed fresh legs. I think something that obviously Rocket has been injury plagued this year. Dominion has, had some moments, but has not been as consistent as he was the year before. And AJ Green just kind of gets tossed out there every once in a while and gets a couple of carries and then brings back and drives Otis nuts because that's Otis's guy and in the running back room. But those 2 guys certainly did a lot of good things this week. I expect them to play a lot next week because of the success they had. And whether it was a combination of the offensive line or a combination of them moves, I mean, IA did a great job of jumping outside, getting into a different hole and being able to get some yards. And I think that was one of the things that Coach McIntyre brought up last night in the post-game press conference, which they were very impressed with that.
I was also happy to see, Dom get into the end zone on that 4th and 2. And Otis and I were kind of talking about it a little bit. He said you could have driven an SUV through that hole that he ran through.
Yeah, and this is a guy who back his, I guess it was his sophomore season, who was having a phenomenal redshirt freshman, however we look at it, was having a great season, was the best running back at the end of the year. He was the guy you thought was going to be the guy who was going to be the bell cow around here, but he hurt his knee and obviously didn't hurt it again the next season. But he looks to be back fully healthy, and they're going to need both those guys. They're going to need those fresh legs Friday, because it's going to be tough to beat Missouri. I do think it's quite possible, and as I was saying to people in the press box yesterday, this is not a good season. It's not going to be considered a good season, but you can have a good ending, and a good ending would be beating, upsetting Missouri and winning what would be 3 of your last 4 games. Now you still would wonder what the heck went wrong with Auburn. I mean, and Auburn just
laid an egg yesterday.
In the press box yesterday that New Mexico State, who's now won 7 in a row, but was 0 of 27 against SEC teams, could have run up the score a little bit more, but they started to start milking the clock. It was interesting. Auburn beat the heck out of Arkansas, obviously, and I think Coach Hugh Freeze was pouring a little salt on it and kind of came back and got him yesterday. Farmers, what?
It is, and what I thought was funny too is that they didn't take Hugh Freeze's advice by running up the score or could score more. So I thought that was kind of cute. But I feel like Auburn's game last week against Arkansas was more of an outlier than it has been going through the season with what they've been doing week in and week out. And I just feel like I know that there's a lot of people that were upset on how the game ended. And then you saw the turnout yesterday with the game, walking up Razorback Street. I saw a video of that. I saw, all on TV, the amount of fans that were in the stands. I think you have to also look at the weather. I know that hunting season might have a little bit to do with it, but not that much. But I think it's just more the record. And
they sold 61,000. They sold 61,000. That was the amount announced. There was no way there was 61,000 in there during the game, but there were a lot more than I thought there would be. with where the no bowl and they get the matchup against Florida International. I thought there would be even less than there were. Hearty congratulations to those fans who stuck it out. Oftentimes people who get on social media talk a lot about, I'm not going to support the coach, I'm not going to support the program until they make a change. Well, that's not fair to guys like KJ and those who've been around, who have told and really turned the program around. It looked at it in the right direction. Obviously, it went off a cliff this year or into the ditch, whatever thing we want to use there. Yeah. But it was. I admire those people who showed up yesterday, and I'm sure that there'll be a better attendance this weekend because they won, because Missouri is very good, and because I'm not going to say it's a rivalry, but it's a game that should be intriguing.
It should be, and also if you're not going to the game and you've got tickets, I've said this before and I'll say it again, let somebody else go. Let somebody else attend that, get into the stadium and cheer the Hogs on. I've seen on social media where there's been folks over in Missouri that are trying to stripe the game out black and gold, which I don't think is going to happen because I don't think that a lot of Arkansas fans are going to knowingly sell their tickets to anybody from Missouri if they can avoid it. And so I felt that I saw that and I dismissed it instantly and thought this has got to be one of the dumbest things I've ever saw. Well,
I tell you what, there will be a great amount of Missouri fans because they're excited about their year. I mean, they're in the race for a New Year's Day Bowl, top 10 program. They're coming off that win yesterday, coming off some big wins through the season. I think they're easily the number 3rd team in the league for sure. And I know that they barely beat Florida yesterday, but I'm talking about consistency throughout the year. Eli Drakewitz does a great job as a coach. He does say some goofy things sometimes. I think he even would admit that, but he's a great head coach and has shown that at Appalachian State. Now has shown it at Missouri. This was I think a prove-it year for him, and he's gone out and proved it and really put Missouri in a position to cap off a great year with a win on Friday. And let's be honest, they have dominated Arkansas in this series. I refuse to call it a rivalry because Arkansas hadn't won enough for it to be a rivalry, but they've dominated Missouri in this series. And Arkansas better start taking it more seriously.
Yeah. I will say, Otis Pope pointed out earlier that Arkansas is 2-1 at home in the last 3 games that Arkansas has played Missouri here. But overall, the series is a little bit more lopsided than a lot of Razorbacks probably want to admit. But like you said, they need to get more serious about this because, like it or not, this is who you're going to be seeing most, if not all, for the foreseeable future, every Black Friday from here on out.
Yeah, I'm doing this off the top of my head, but so I'm not going to quote it as fact, but I think it's like 8-2 in the last 10 games between these two. Mm-hmm. That does not a rivalry make. I don't care who sponsors it, who tries to push it as a rivalry. Again, Arkansas became a rival of LSU because they were able to beat them every once in a while. And it became a much more important game to LSU than it was previously. You can go look back to the Darren McFadden game. It's maybe a turning point that there was an equal in that game, not during the season because LSU's had a better football program over the years, but an equal during that game, and you didn't know what was going to go on. Again, it would be an upset, a very big upset if Arkansas wins this ball game on Friday. But I do give them a chance because of what we saw yesterday, at least some life. And again, you don't. Coach McIntyre knows this. You don't show up and get it out of your mind to play against Florida International, but you had better show up and play out of your mind against a top 10 team, or really you don't even need to be here. If you're not got that juice, you don't need to be here. And I remember somebody saying this week, and I can't remember off the top of my head, a former Arkansas player saying that Arkansas looks like they're okay with losing. During that Auburn game, that cannot be. That was the malaise that got here during the late Coach B years, and then the entirety of the Chad Morris years.
Yeah, and going back to the rivalry too, Arkansas has faced Missouri more where both the teams have not been ranked, or one has been ranked in the lower half of the 25. It hasn't been that year in and year out where you have a chance of facing like an LSU that's a ranked a first, second, third, and then you have that chance of coming up and really kind of just demolishing their year. And I think that also adds into the rivalry aspect of it too. Now you have that opportunity this weekend with, Missouri being in the top 10, and you could possibly knock them out of a New Year's Six bowl.
Yeah. The positioning of the time of the game on Black Friday has elevated the relevance, elevated the ratings a little bit than it would if it was an 11 a.m. game, as some of them have been and should have been, during the course of this so-called rivalry. Schrader for Missouri, love to watch him play. That's a guy who gets everything, came up from a Division II school as the SEC's. I'm sure they're going to give it to somebody from Alabama or somebody from Georgia, but Schrader to me is the MVP of the SEC this year.
Yep, he is. Well, man, I'm going to get you out of here, let you go enjoy that 33-10 whooping that Dallas put on Carolina, and look forward to seeing all your coverage for tomorrow night against with Arkansas taking on UCA. Again, at 7 o'clock tomorrow night at Bud Walton Arena. You can also watch that on ESPN Plus on your streaming device as well. And this is going to be one of our last shows of the football season, but we're going to still continuing it through basketball, softball, baseball. And I feel like your season's just now starting to get primed up because, after the new year, I'm going to tell you what, you're probably going to be the busiest guy in Arkansas sports media.
Don't tell my wife that. I explained how it's going to slow down here for a minute. But it's just a minute.
All right. For Dudley Dawson and myself, Jason Patterson, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today, and we'll see you next Sunday at 4:30. This has been the Razorback Diamond Report with Dudley Dawson.
Tired of serving up the same old tasteless victuals to your family? Step up your grill game with new seasonings from Cloy's Southern Eats. Based off famous Southern recipes, our seasonings will add what's been missing to your family's feast. Add it to steak, chicken, shrimp, you name it. Serving up these fixings is going to make you the hero at home. So head on over to CloysSouthernEats.com and order yours today. Come get you some.